Yes.
So, yeah, I'd like Dr. Sujata to take over and start the seminar for us. Thank you, Dr. Sujata.
Right, right. Thank you, Karthik. Um, as we were saying, welcome all participants, those who have registered, those who are coming in, welcome. And as they say that behind every crisis, behind every difficulty, there is an opportunity. And while the COVID-19 has wreaked so much havoc, what a pandemic it's been and still going on, and the trouble that the whole world is practically under lockdown, more than 75% of it. Yet I would say that there are some things that have emerged which might be even positive. And what it has done is it has, so while we are maintaining social distancing, I would say while we are maintaining physical distancing, socially we can still remain connected, we can still remain together. And with modern technology, this has become not just possible, it's a reality, it's a virtual reality. You're all in touch, and with the webinars that all the enthusiastic people are organizing just for the love of homeopathy, we are all together. We are going back to our roots. We are learning things that we had forgotten to in all the mayhem that of daily life that we've been leading. So this is a wonderful opportunity. I thank the I Love Homeopathy group. I thank Dr. Karthik for giving me this opportunity to connect with all of you. And this is a very unusual kind of presentation that I'm making today. I generally am doing a lot of research, a clinical research. I'm doing my presentations at various forums, various international conferences. But remedy and dissecting a remedy like this is very unusual, especially the kind of the combination that we have taken today. That is of Calcarea carbonicum and Calcarea sulfuricum. We often take Calcarea carb and Calcarea phos together. We take Calcarea carb and silica together, or we do Calcarea sulf and hepar sulf together, but never Calcarea carb and Calcarea sulf together. And you'll see how interesting it gets. I just hope I make it interesting enough for you people. But some unknown facets of both the remedies I'd like to unravel. Some things that we know, but we have probably they're at the back of our minds nowadays. We're not really applying them in clinical practice. So let's just refresh some of our knowledge and some things that we might just bring on, which probably you have not come across until now. So nothing is possible. This whole presentation, this whole webinar would not have been possible without the wonderful teamwork that we have been doing. And I must thank my team profusely using this platform for being with me all the time. Today, Dr. Saili, Dr. Vedi, Dr. Shubha from my research team are there. And of course, the other team members, also the people from behind, from the background who keep helping us. But these are from the research team, and they are going to help me with the presentation today, Dr. Vedi and Dr. Saili. So I would like to start uh, Calcarea carbonicum and Calcarea sulfuricum, the applications, the differentiation, and the case studies. So Dr. Saili, can we have the presentation, please? Yes, Dr. I think Gudni from Iceland. This is joined in Gudni from Iceland. Yeah, welcome. Welcome all participants. In case those who come in late, you can always ask some questions. I'll be happy to. We have plenty of time today. I believe that we have time until 6:30.
6:30, yes.
Almost, yes, 6:30. So good 2.5 hours. So let's just have a very nice, relaxed session. And a lot of people, it might be a post-lunch one, but I just hope that I can manage to keep all of you awake. Some people, it may be morning in Europe and UK, and I hope this is a good wake-up session for you. So Calcarea carbonicum and Calcarea sulfuricum, application and differentiation through case studies. And we know that calcium is such an important element. Without calcium, we wouldn't be able to function. It is one of the most important elements required for functioning of. And salts of calcium, as we know, are little insoluble, mostly insoluble, very slowly absorbed. And deficiency of calcium or excess of calcium, both may be responsible for several ailments, several diseases. and several nutritional issues. So, what does calcium affect actually? Calcium absorption can affect bones, muscles, blood, and nerves. And it is present. There are two ways you can get your calcium. One is, of course, through ingested food items which contain calcium. So, we know that milk and all dairy products are rich in calcium. And the other way is the absorption through the gut. So even if you have a good amount of calcium in your diet, if it is not getting optimally absorbed from the gut, then you can still suffer from deficiency of calcium. You can suffer from malabsorption of calcium, leading to several problems. So what happens when there is a difficulty in assimilation of calcium? What happens when there's difficulty in ossification, in impaired ossification? That's when the application of our remedy today, Calcarea carbonicum, will start. Calcarea carbonicum is made from the middle layer of the oyster shell. We know that the oyster shell at the seashore, we often pick it up and bring it, and then you have the lovely pearl inside. In chemical terms, Calcarea carbonica is impure calcium carbonate. It was proved by Dr. Hahnemann. So it's a very, very basic remedy. And let me tell you that it is one of the best proven remedies of our materia medica. And the reason why Calcarea carb is so widely used and so widely effective in treating several ailments is because one is that it's very well proven, and two is because it affects the constitution at every stage in life, and especially in children, infants and children. I think at 20% of the pediatric population will require Calcarea carbonicum. And if you can, and as you see that as the person grows older and older, Calcarea carbonicum may be required lesser. Except that in if a person still requires Calcarea carb when he's old and his constitution is always Calcarea carbonicum, then you know that it's one of the best core constitutions you can get. And as Dr. George Vitulka says, that an old person requiring Calcarea carbonicum means that he is of sound constitution and probably belongs to the best levels of health. So we talk about this remedy today, and we see its sphere of action. One is, of course, impaired nutrition, which is the keynote of Calcarea carb. And when this gets impaired, then it affects the glands, the skin, the bones, the blood and circulation, the chest, heart, and very, very, as we know, it's a very useful remedy in children. And faulty absorption of calcium causes deficiency, and that leads to insufficient, when the bones get insufficient calcium, that is when there is problem in the development, problem with the milestones, delayed milestones in children, the fontanelle closure is delayed. So everything gets delayed, the development gets delayed. Sometimes there is difficulty in mental development as well. Although a lot of Calcareas will show the defective physical constitution of a very sharp mental constitution. And the typical Calcarea carb personality, everybody knows, fat, fair, flabby, the typical leucophlegmatic constitution. But we should also note that the Asian and the African population are not so fair. They probably have brown or dark or ebony skin. And would Calcarea still be indicated? Of course, it would be. Fair does not mean in terms of color. It could also mean a pale, anemic constitution. Chalky white, they say. So even if the person is dark, you can see if he becomes pale and if he looks anemic, then that's Calcarea carb. So a fair, fat, flabby, very flabby, low muscle tone. Most of the Calcareas are very coarse in their look. They are not the very refined types like phosphorus or perhaps to some extent lycopodium or even Calcarea phos, because there is a phosphorus component to it. But Calcarea carbs are mostly flabby, all very loose and very chilly. They cannot take the cold at all. They're extremely sensitive to cold, all the time having cold. So when you see a chilly person who's fat, flabby, very loose muscle tone, and very, very chilly, catching cold at the slightest pretext, they go out, a little bit of draft of air, they get a cold. They work in water, housewives working in water, they get a cold. So even the slightest exposure to cold or chilly winds or water, they develop a cold. At the same time, there is profuse perspiration, especially around the head, the neck, very sour smelling perspiration. And you can see that in a typical child, a Calcarea child, when he sleeps at night, he wants the fan or the AC. But that brings on the cold, and that if the AC is not switched on, he'll probably get a lot of sweat, and that's around the neck, and his head is completely wet by the time he wakes up in the morning. And that wet head will, that damp head is going to lead to another cold. So this is how the cycle of calcarea goes on. And if you look at it, the oyster shell guards the pearl inside. So most of the calcareas like to lead a very sheltered life. They want to live in that oyster. They don't want to come out of it. They're always seeking shelter, seeking protection, seeking security, and they're very anxious if they're left alone by themselves to fend in the world. So uh, a child who is basically very timid, very anxious, probably the second or the third child in the family, and where there is a lot of conflict at home, there are parents fighting, or it's a joint family, and he's used to a lot of conflict, a lot of strife in the family, and not able to express himself, so he goes into a shell. And then he wants somebody. Calcareas are always looking for a mother figure. So if their mother is not there, they look for a figure which resembles the mother, and they want to be sheltered by her. So for the calcarea child, the mother is one of the most important factors in his or her life. And they get very anxious. And because it affects the calcium metabolism, the calcium assimilation. So calcarea child is also very slow and sluggish. He'll sit, the other children are playing, they want to go out, play, be very active. But a calcarea child will sit, he will observe, he may observe and absorb a lot without showing that he's doing so. But he'll always remain in the background and reflect that anxiety, doesn't want to go, doesn't want himself to be shown, doesn't want himself to be projected. So he'll keep to himself because he's always afraid that his timidity, his confusion, his anxiety will be exhibited to others. So fear observed a condition of being is a very important rubric associated with calcarea. Next slide. So they're very anxious. So they have this anxiety regarding their health, a very anticipatory anxiety, and begins in childhood. As I said, a child who has probably been subjected to abuse, subjected to conflict, subjected to strife, becomes very anxious, becomes very insecure, wants to wonder what is going to happen next, a lot of apprehension with restlessness and palpitations. And he feels that there's something going to happen. All the time, the feeling of something impending evil. Fear of impending evil is a marked symptom of calcarea. So they're all the time full of fears. A child goes to bed, dreams of ghosts, dreams of something bad going to happen. As he grows older, if there is a boy or a girl in his class who suffers from some kind of a infectious disease, he fears that he will also get it. He fears that there'll be a lot of disaster, something's going to happen, and he's afraid that in all this, I'm going to lose my reason. I'm going to lose my sanity. I'm going to lose my sense of balance. And then he fears that if I'm going to lose that, and what if others know that I'm losing my reason? So with that result, they withdraw further into themselves without wanting to get exposed. So this makes them very sad. They want to go home. Home is a very important feature for calcarea. They're always seeking shelter, seeking protection. So whether it's a calcarea child, whether it is a calcarea woman, or whether it's a calcarea man, they're always seeking shelter. Even a business magnate who is of calcarea constitution will still want to come back home to his security, to his abode where he's protected, where nobody knows what he's doing, nobody is going to observe him, the focus is not on him. So they always want that shelter where they want to be inside. So this anxiety is all the time there. They're afraid that something's going to happen. They're afraid that businessmen will be afraid that they're going to lose their business. They're going to get poor. There's going to be a disaster. So that fear is all the time with calcarea. And let me tell you that I had this webinar I think last week on post-traumatic stress disorder. And remember that calcarea carb is one of the very, very important remedies for this condition. And now that we're facing this COVID-19 epidemic, the physical part of the epidemic may get over, but the psychological epidemic is just beginning, and it's going to be there. And while homeopaths are still battling over whether we should be allowed to give homeopathy for the symptoms and the complication associated with COVID-19. But mind you, let me tell you this kind of prediction is that there will be a lot of psychological fallout of this illness. And we are going to face depression, anxiety disorders, we are going to face neurosis, long-term effects of this pandemic for a long time to come. And homeopaths are going to have a great business. They're going to do very well in treating this, because nothing can treat the problems of the mind the way homeopaths do. And the right constitutional medicine will completely remove the disease from the mind. So be prepared for that. So while others will be complaining of economic fallout, homeopaths are going to really be doing very well. So going on to the next symptom of Kalkira. So they're forgetful, confused, misplaces words and expresses himself wrongly. Because of their problem with assimilation, So remember that the Kalkiras have a very poor resistance, whether it is physical or mental. They are not the hardy, the tough ones. They are very timid, uh, very weak in terms of their strength. So whether it's physical strength or mental strength, Kalkiras are very weak. So even if they are outwardly fat, they look corpulent, they look heavy, they look coarse, but inwardly they're extremely those delicate people, those confused people. So forgetful, confused, misplaces words and expresses himself wrongly. Poor learning. Most of them, because of the developmental delay, also learn poorly. They do make up. A lot of Kalkiria children will make up the mental lag later on as they grow older, but the physical part will remain. Fear that people will notice her confusion of mind. So, as I said, fear observes her condition of being. Inability to apply himself. She sits and sits because they're so indolent physically that they will just sit and imagine. They will sit and theorize. They'll want to do a lot of stuff, but they're not able to because their muscles don't support them. Their legs don't support them. So they'll want to just sit and imagine. Extreme averse to work or exertion, and there's just no willpower. They know that they have to go out. The mind tells them. There's always a conflict between the mind and body in Kalkiria. The mind tells them, go out, work, do this. So the mind is running fast, but the body is not cooperating. So this makes them very obstinate, excessive ill humor. A child very stubborn, a fat, fair, flabby child, a lot of perspiration on the head, suffering from recurrent colds and coughs, suffering from recurrent tonsillitis or throat infections, and extremely stubborn and ill-humored. Think about Kalkiria. And they're very self-willed. They will do exactly what they want, headstrong, and aversion to others. So they want protection, they want shelter, they want their mother, but they are averse to a lot of company. They are not the people who will go out and just make friends. Unlike a phosphorus or lycopodium, they will wait for others to come and talk to them, and they're always afraid about what the other person is thinking of them. Pulsatilla also is like that. Pulsatilla also is afraid of the opinion of others, but because they are so vain, so frivolous. But Kalkiria is because they are inwardly timid. They're afraid of being hurt. They think that they're afraid of being exposed. So that is the reason why they don't want others to observe them. The suspicious thing, people are looking at them suspicious, and he looks at them. So it's a two-way process, because he thinks people are suspicious of him. He becomes suspicious of them. And then they are insecure. Of course, they want to be at home. They want everything in place. So a Kalkiria woman also at home, she's a housewife running her home. She wants everything. She wants her children to be at home. She wants her children well taken care of, husband coming well on time, everything in place. Even the house will be absolutely in place. And they are always afraid. Even the Kalkiria woman is always afraid that something terrible is going to happen with her family, with herself. She's always afraid of that. Anxiety of health is one of the key features of Kalkiria. But it's only anxiety about themselves and about their immediate family, not about the whole world. So they're not like Causticum, which is anxious about the well-being of the entire community. So they don't have the benevolence of Causticum, but they just have that because they are afraid of being exposed, they're afraid of being forsaken. They want to be sheltered all the time. So that's why they're craving for warmth, whether it's at the physical level or the mental level. They want warmth, they want hugging. A child, Kalkiria child will always want his mother to come and hug him. Aversion to change because they are so headstrong. And they don't go out much, do not want any adventure. So very indolent, okay with whatever the situation is. And of course, reserved, shy and timid because of this condition. Next one. So the keynotes of Kalkiria Cup. How would you say, what are the keynotes of Kalkiria Cup? It's a Soric constitution, one of the most basic constitutions of our materia medica. So that is why most of the children require Kalkiria Cup. pale, weak, timid, very tired, all the time tired. So they cannot climb even two steps, two staircases, without getting breathless. So they have even from childhood there's a tendency to obesity. And if you notice that a child who has been obese earlier and he somehow manages to lose weight through exercise or through some other means or through diet, but you'll see that the calcarea face is always chubby. You cannot miss that. Calcarea face is always chubby. His head sweats profusely while sleeping, wetting the pillow far around. And there's so much of perspiration, mostly on the upper part of the body, never in the lower parts. And the bones are extremely weak, especially the spine and the long bones. Extremities are crooked. Bones are very irregularly developed. So this is the main part of calcarea is the bone disorders. So because of the imperfect assimilation, because of the imperfect ossification, so bone issues are some of the keynote problems of calcarea carb. The discharges we know that they smell sour along with because that's a feature of the carbon group. So even magnesium carbonicum will have very sour smelling discharges. Great longing for eggs. So they love eggs. So it's very unusual for a calcarea carp to not want or love eggs. So even if a child who does not like any other non-vegetarian food is probably averse to meat, but will still long for eggs. And because of the low calcium, the low iron, because they're pale, anemic, they have this condition called as pica, and they crave for indigestible things. Often they crave when the mother is making uh, uh, cooking an egg for them. So they will come and they will snatch the eggshell and want to eat that. They will scrape off the wall and want to eat that. So they want to eat chalk and indigestible things all the time. And then it's coldness of single parts. So the head, stomach, abdomen, feet, and legs are always cold. They have aversion to cold open air. So although they sweat so much, yet they don't want the draft of cold air. They would rather have a slow, cool breeze, but never a draft. Very sensitive to cold. So cold things, cold drinks, cold air, getting wet are bad for calcarea carb. Next one. Yeah. So what are the conditions where it is useful? Vertigo is one of the very, very important factors for calcarea carbonicum because they always have a feeling of there's something in the head. They feel there's heaviness in the frontal part of the head, and vertigo is associated with that feeling. And when they are climbing a step, they feel as if there is some kind of weight in the head, and the vertigo is often because of that. So when they are even afraid of heights. So if they're looking down from a high rise, they will get this vertigo. Before that, they will have this heaviness on the head. Headache from overlifting, from mental exertion with nausea, mostly left-sided. Calcarea carbonicum is mostly left-sided. Chronic dilatation of the pupils, mucopurulent oturia. So for otitis media, calcarea carbonicum is one of the key remedies because it has extreme catarrhal conditions of any kind of of the entire respiratory tract, whether it is the upper respiratory tract, the nasal catarrh, or whether it is the throat or from the chest. Catarrh is the constant feature of calcarea carb. And so mucopurulent kind of a discharge with enlarged glands. So you have submaxillary glands, you have cervical glands, and you have mesenteric glands. So glandular diathesis is one of the key features of calcarea carb. And they take cold at every change of weather. So submaxillary tonsillitis is very common. One of the problems where calcarea carb is always indicated more often than not. Chest is also very sensitive to touch. And even for pneumonias, calcarea carb is one of our leading remedies. Along with, of course, bryony and phosphorus, it forms a triad of pneumonia. Very weak heart, palpitation of the heart. So they are basically inwardly very weak. So the chest part is also very weak. Uremic diseases, calcarea carb is very useful for gout. It is useful for repeated urinary tract infections, for ureteric stones, renal stones. For chronic kidney disease, calcarea carb, lycopodium, calcarea sulph. These are some of our leading remedies. And of course, uremic disease is brought on by standing on cold, damp pavements. Next one. Yeah. So craving for indigestible things, as I said, milk disagrees. So they cannot digest milk. A lot of children, infants have diarrhea which is associated with milk. So they have a sometimes a secondary lactose intolerance following the viral diarrhea. And that's when calcarea can be indicated. Note here, very important, that calcarea carb children are often constipated and they're very happy being constipated. A calcarea will never complain of constipation. It is the diarrhea which affects the calcarea. So when the child gets diarrhea, milk disagrees, he has craving for eggs, craving for indigestible things, calcarea carb should be the remedy. So they have dislike of fat, fatty things, butter, cheese, but they love eggs, they love salt, they love sweets. And inguinal and mesenteric glands are swollen and painful, and they're better in every way when they are constipated. It's the mother who's always anxious. Oh, he's not passed stool for 4 days. How's the child? He's very comfortable. So this is a typical calcarea constitution. A calcarea girl, if you look, this is very interesting because a calcarea girl is the one who grows too fast. Because she's plethoric, she is a little obese, she looks older for her age. A 9 or 10-year-old girl looks like as if she's 13 or 14. She starts her menstruation very early, way earlier than her classmates. And the menses are very heavy, very profuse, red, absolutely red discharge. And because of the profuse menses, they become a little weak, pale, anemic. And the calcarea constitutionally is indolent, but the anemia makes her even more tired and weak and indolent. And then as she grows older, if this pattern of menses continues, then she lands up into something called as amenorrhea. And then with that, irregular menses, and these girls sometimes end up in a condition with a condition called as PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then they sometimes also have fertility issues. But if she's treated at puberty with calcarea carbonicum, probably she will not have to face these issues later on in life. So they always they're extremely as I said, extremely insecure, very timid. There is an idea which dominates their mind. For example, now, just an example, now this pandemic going on, there are calls from some patients. I know it is a calcarea carb. When they call up again and again and they say that, oh, my neighbor's got fever. So should I take something so that I also don't get it? I'm having a sore throat. Could this be a sign of something more severe? They're even afraid to name the disease. So they'll say, could it be something else? Or could it be the normal flu? So this is how a calcarea will always speak to you. There is a test that we follow in our clinics very often, is that there are two personalities which will always come back. Once they leave your cabin and go out, and they will always knock and come in again because they are so confused and they are so afraid of something wrong going to happen. One is calcarea because of the anxiety that they have, and the second is phosphorus because they have these panic attacks. Calcarea carb and phosphorus are very, very close, very, very allied in their application, especially the mental symptoms. But calcarea is more of an evolving anxiety. Phosphorus is that sudden. Phosphorus is anyways, it's a very inflammatory kind of an element. So phosphorus is very sudden. Suddenness is the feature of phosphorus, at least in the initial phase. So they will always have these anxieties, these fears, these panic attacks, and then they will call you up in the middle of the night. Oh, I'm having a sore throat. So could it be something else? A calcarea will think about it, and they'll call the doctor and then express their anxiety. So this is the difference basically. The chill begins internally in the stomach region, and there's fever with sweat. Next one. Yeah. So look at the calcarea carb child. The teething picture, as we know, the fat, flabby baby. All of us see calcarea carb children in our clinics day in and day out, and we know that it works by default. So with a fair head, a big head, sour smelling, perspiring furiously at night, delayed dentition. Now, delayed dentition is calcarea carbonicum, but dentition related issues, we often think of calcarea phos, we think of chamomilla, we have rheum, we have magnesium carbonicum, and we have Aethusa, and what have you. There's several remedies. But when there is a delayed milestones, so and a child who's diarrhea, milk disagrees with him, he vomits something which is very sour vomit. Calcarea carb can be given as a constitutional remedy along with, and he always wants to be carried by his mother. That's calcarea. The rickety child, rickets are not very commonly seen now because we are more aware, more particular about nutrition. So calcium and vitamin D is taken care of during pregnancy itself. So mothers who are calcium deficient may have children who develop rickets, but this is very unlikely in developed countries or in places where there's good awareness about health. However, having said that, as I said, that calcium absorption does not only depend upon the ingestion of calcium, but if the mother has had an issue with calcium absorption during pregnancy, she's taking calcium supplements, but yet she's low on calcium, she may be born with a child who has a tendency to rickets. So the child, they're very lethargic, dull, doesn't want to move. His limbs are very weak, especially the lower extremities are very weak bones. So they often fall, even when they're learning to walk. Calcarea child will fall very often. So he'll want to have eggs, and he eats lime, slate pencils, earth, chalk, whatever. Anything that is raw. He may even go to the closet where you keep your shoes and try to go on and chew on the leather. So these are the typical Calcarea children. And they have night terrors. They want their mothers. They will never sleep in their own crib. Always want the mother or the parents with him. They will worse by cold, raw air, bathing. Bathing is another thing with Calcarea, is that uh, they perspire. They have very thick hair sometimes. So when they perspire, the hair remains damp, and that's how they get a cold. So even after they have a shower or a bath, when the bath dries them after that, sometimes the head remains damp, and that's how they get the cold. So change of weather to cold, physical exertion is something a Calcarea will never ever tolerate. Just cannot bear any kind of exertion, any kind of eye strain. Dentition, of course, is the main problem. Puberty is the time when Calcarea carp can be very, very strongly indicated in a lot of girls. And even during lactation, Calcarea carp can be given to the lactating mother if she does not have enough milk, or she has a problem with calcium absorption. And even after taking a lot of calcium, she still has pains and aches in her limbs. You can think of Calcarea carp. And towards menopause, so as I said, every stage Calcarea carp can be indicated, but you see that its applications go a little less as the person grows older. And they're always better in dry climate, worse in damp, cold weather, much better in dry weather. And when they have they have a headache because of the catarrhal condition, catarrh is blocked. So when they sneeze, they start feeling better. And after, there's one more thing, is that Calcarea is always afraid of dark. They want light all the time. A Calcarea carp child will always want some kind of light. Either they'll want the door open, or they will want a night lamp, or they will want the bathroom lamp open on, because they're afraid of the dark. They're afraid of something which is the unknown. They're afraid of dark. They want to know everything. They want something which is absolutely clear. So that's why Calcarea carp is afraid of the unknown. Now, which are the clinical conditions that Calcarea carp is most indicated in? You have acidity, so all kinds of acidity, worms, renal calculus, gallstones. Biliary dyspepsia is one of the common conditions where Calcarea carp can be associated, especially even if the person is not having gallstones, but biliary dyspepsia. So a lot of acidity associated with sour, bitter kind of a regurgitation or a reflux. You can think of Calcarea carp. Anemia, debility, dropsy, diabetes. These are some of the common clinical conditions. Very weak ankles, weak bones. So rheumatism, rickets, sciatica, spinal effect. So because whenever there is a deficiency of calcium in the bones, or there's a improper assimilation of calcium, that's when all the problems with the bones start. And these are all the conditions associated with the musculoskeletal system. So they have problem with caries. So even a woman may have a toothache during pregnancy, and that's because of improper calcium assimilation. So, and then they have caries during pregnancy. Think of Calcarea carp during pregnancy, along with, of course, MAC carp is one of the leading remedies there. Learning disability also Calcarea carp, though Baraita carp comes more close there. So a lot of children who are very indolent. It's not that they are mentally backward, or they are lagging, or they have a lag, but it's just that they are physically so indolent that the mind also cannot keep up. The body is unable to keep up with the mind, and that's why they have slowness in learning, slowness in application, and they get into a kind of a rut where they just don't want to move forward. So they'll always remain the way they are. And ears and eyes affection of all catarrhal conditions of the ear and eyes, think of Calcarea carp. And then it's one of the leading remedies for infections, because cold, damp aggravates them. So any kind of dampness, any kind of humidity is going to worsen their problem. So it's one of the leading remedies for ringworm, along with, as we will see, Calcarea sulph is better indicated, but Calcarea carp as a constitutional can really help ringworm, molluscum contagiosum, all kinds of cold, catarrh, pneumonia. Epilepsy is one of the, because calcium forms such an important part of nerves. So epilepsy and the vertigo which is associated with epileptic attacks, Calcarea carbonicum can be indicated there. And of course, all glandular swellings. Next one. Are you all with me? Can you hear me? Just hope that everybody can hear me. If there is, please message me if you want. Okay. So this is the repertorization of Calcarea carb. And you can see that, look at the rubrics that we have taken. What is interesting is that the remedies that come along with Calcarea. You can have a look at that. So air, cold aggravates. Head, perspiration. You can see that there's a lot of perspiration around the head. Children, development delayed or arrested. Walk, late learning to. Weakness, lower limb. Child, late learning to walk. Gland, cervical, submaxillary. Concentration difficult. These are all the conditions that we encounter in our clinical practice. And that's how we have converted them into rubrics. So all the symptoms of Calcarea carb have been converted into rubrics, and we have made a common repertorial totality of these symptoms. Fear, observed a condition of being. Mind, anxiety, health about. Mind, fear happens, something will. So they're afraid that something is going to happen all the time. Fear, alone of being. So these are all the symptoms, the keynote symptoms of Calcarea carb, without which you cannot imagine this remedy. So these are all the symptoms, and we converted them into rubrics, and you can see that Calcarea carb practically covers each of these rubrics. And then you can see that the remedies which follow, but please go back to the repertoire. The remedies that follow up, phosphorus comes very, very close, especially amongst, it matches the mental picture of Calcarea to a large extent, except that I said that phosphorus is more volatile in its expressions. And you can see that what it matches is anxiety, what it matches is fear happens, something will, and what it also matches is fear of being alone. So these are the symptoms that match with Calcarea. But the fear of phosphorus is very different. The way it presents is also very different. Lycopodium also comes very close to Calcarea. In fact, it's an excellent follow-up of Calcarea. And when Calcarea doesn't help, you can think of Lycopodium. However, the insecurity or the timidity of Lycopodium is much different than Calcarea. Lycopodium is more ambitious, the more go-getter. And when it comes to actual performing, a Lycopodium will perform much better than Calcarea, whether it's in public functions, public speaking on the stage. So that's why if you look at, so Calcareas will be the bureaucrats and Lycopodiums will be the politicians. That's the difference. So you can see that Lycopodium. Then the remedy that follows is Silica, very close to Calcarea. Cilicia again are timid, very shy, very insecure, but they are one of the most conscientious remedies of the Materia Medica. For them duty is the ultimate. So in terms of Calcarea, if you look at Calcarea and Cilicia are afraid to be, they don't want to go in the foreground because they're extremely timid and insecure. Baryta carb again very insecure. Then the next is Nux vomica. Nux vomica, they want attention, they want pampering, but they don't want to be touched. They're extremely sensitive to touch, to contradiction, to any kind of criticism. And nitric acid again is very, very close to Calcarea. So you can see these 5-6 drugs which follow Calcarea very well. So almost all these remedies are worse from cold air. So whether it's Calcarea, phosphorus, whether it is Silica, Baryta carb, all chili remedies. So this is how these are the applications of Calcarea carb. So we looked at what is Calcarea carbonicum, what is the assimilation, what is the Calcarea child, what is the Calcarea adult, all the clinical manifestations of Calcarea carb. What are the applications, which are the conditions in which Calcarea carb can be given. And we will of course be taking up cases of Calcarea, but before that we will look at Calcarea sulfuricum. So everybody can follow me. I don't know whether everybody is able to hear me and follow me, and whether I've managed to keep everybody awake. But let me tell you that it will get more interesting as the presentation goes forward, because then we'll have time for cases as well. So this is Calcarea sulfuricum, and the reason why I took it up is that unlike Calcarea carb, which is a very strong constitutional remedy, one of the best well-proven remedies of the Materia Medica, one of the best constitutional remedies of Materia Medica, and with a very widespread application. There is no homeopath in this room or anywhere who has probably not used Calcarea carb in a child ever. Very, very unlikely. And Calcarea sulf is just the opposite. Calcarea sulf, unfortunately, hasn't been a very well-proven remedy. And for a long time, it was one of Schussler's biochemical remedies. So among 12 tissue salts, the Calcarea sulf was very widely used as a biochemic remedy, as a trituration, and not as a homeopathic application. And that really did not do justice to Calcarea sulf. And uh, recently, we have seen resurgence of Calcarea sulf in its clinical application because it's a wonderful, wonderful gem of our Materia Medica. One of our leading remedies for abscesses, for wounds which don't heal, for any kind of ulceration, for all abscesses, furuncles, follicles, carbuncles, for bed sores. Calcarea sulf can be a fantastic remedy as indicated. So what is Calcarea sulf? It is sulfate of lime. Calcarea carb was carbonate of lime. Calcarea sulf is sulfate of lime. So it is plaster of Paris, gypsum salt. So it is it's used for building, for walls, for as a cast for falling fractures. So it's a favorite of all orthopedic doctors. So and it absorbs a lot of water. Unlike Calcarea carb, Calcarea sulf absorbs a lot of water. So the sphere of action is connective tissue, glands, mucous membranes, bones, and skin. So because the calcarea element, the calcarea component, Calcarea sulfuricum also has an affinity for the glands, for the mucous membranes, for the bones, and especially for the connective tissue. So in terms of connective tissue and skin, Calcarea sulf is much better indicated than Calcarea carb. Next one. Yeah. So the keynotes of Calcarea sulf are it has tendency to suppuration after pus has found its vent. So what does that mean is that an abscess which has burst and is releasing a lot of pus, a particular type of pus, the consistency of the pus is thick, it is yellow, and it is lumpy. That is how the pus of Calcarea sulf is going to be. So the abscess, whether it has burst, the pus is now out, but the wound refuses to heal. So it keeps discharging that pus forever and ever until Calcarea sulf is given. So in the third stage of inflammation, so Calcarea sulf is actually a very, very good clinical remedy and can be given for very deep-seated pathological conditions. So in third stage of inflammation, so when pus formation has started, when there's threatening to ulceration, threatening to gangrene, Calcarea sulf can be the lifesaver. So pus or mucus discharges are yellow, thick, and lumpy. Glandular swelling. So it, like Calcarea, it also has Calcarea carb. It has affinity for the glands, but it's a slow, very torpid kind of a development in Calcarea sulf. And the skin just does not heal. The skin of Calcarea sulf is extremely healthy, will not heal. All cuts, wounds, bruises, etc. are unhealthy, discharging pus all the time. A wound will never close. So if you have an ulcer, it is not going to heal unless Calcarea sulf is given. And the difference between Calcarea carb and Calcarea sulf is that the Calcarea carb catches cold very easily. And Calcarea sulf also catches cold easily. They are both sensitive to cold. At the same time, Calcarea sulf is worse from heat. Like Calcarea seek warmth, Calcarea sulf want cold. So they want cold bathing, cold water. They are better by uncovering, unlike Calcarea carbonicum, which wants to be covered all the time. So Calcarea sulf is never better with covering. Unlike Calcarea carb is insecure, wants to be in the shell, wants to be sheltered. They're suspicious, they're doubtful, but Calcarea sulf is more jealous. They're all the time, they want appreciation. They want to be praised all the time. And if they're not praised, then they get jealous. So very often, Calcarea sulf can be one of the leading remedies for sibling rivalry. To date, I think one of my favorite remedies has been Natrum Mule for sibling rivalry, one of the leading remedies for sibling rivalry. But we have given Calcarea sulf in a couple of cases where the physical conditions were very marked and jealousy was an associated complaint. So it was a differentiating rubric and it helped to clinch Calcarea sulf. Unlike Calcarea, which is indolent and anxious, Calcarea sulf is hurried and restless. extremely hurried. They are also anxious because of the calcarea component, but the sulfur component brings into it restlessness and hurriedness. So uh, they are all the time wanting to do something. Again, because of the calcarea component, they are not really achieving anything. So infants with bloody coryza, diarrhea, eczema, extremely very strong affinity to the skin and mucous membrane. So you'll have crusty eruptions, you'll have crustal lactea. In children, the cradle cap, and every time they try to dislodge, they scratch because there's a lot of itching. So every time they scratch the scalp, it oozes, and the oozing is of very thick yellow mucus or pus. So this is how the infant of crustal lactea will present with calcarea sulfur. Next slide. So they have inflammation of the eyes, so very useful for abscesses of the cornea. In fact, it's one of the leading remedies for that. So inflammation of the eyes with discharge of thick yellow matter. So if you have a child who is sweaty, who does not want the covers at night, who suffers from repeated abscesses, heat boils, who has crustal lactea, that is the crusty eruption on the scalp, and who has agglutinated eyes in the morning. So when he wakes up in the morning, the eyes are all sticky. Think of calcarea sulfur as the remedy. That differentiates it from calcarea carb. Yellowish discharge from the posterior nares. So even in the cold, it's all blocked. The child is constantly snuffling. When there is supposed to remove the discharge, which is difficult, it's always thick and lumpy and yellow. Painful abscesses about the anus in cases of fistula. Very even in abscesses, it's an excellent remedy. And unlike calcarea, which has cold feet, calcarea carbonicum always has cold feet. And even in a woman, if you look at a middle-aged woman who complains as if she's worn cold stockings, she feels as if her feet are all the time damp. This is a very typical symptom of calcarea carb. But in calcarea sulf, you will see that there's a lot of burning of the feet because of the sulfur component. Sulfur also has burning and itching of the soles of the feet. Calcarea sulfur is an excellent remedy for malignant exostosis, kind of tumors, malignant tumors when ulceration has set in. We've used this in a case of ovarian cancer when the exostosis had burst, when the tumor had burst, and there was an oozing of very bad, foul-smelling, yellow, thick, lumpy discharge. And that's when calcarea sulfur had given us some relief because the discharge gradually eased out and was much more comfortable after giving calcarea sulfur. So you can see that many eruptions upon the like boils, eczema, herpes, acne, a teenager with repeated acne, recurrent thick indurated large acne, which pimples which form pustules, and there's a scrofula is a very common manifestation of calcarea sulfur. So you have scurfy eruption, dandruff, seborrheic dermatitis, psoriatic stages. Calcarea sulfur is a remedy. Even for pustular psoriasis, think of calcarea sulfur. Next one. Yes, so calcarea sulfur again is very sensitive to cold, wet weather, but they are not better by warmth. Heat of the room, being heated in a closed room aggravates them. They like open air, they like to be bathed, they like cold bathing, cold applications, and they love to eat and they have love uncovering. So a calcarea sulfur child will never keep the covering on. This one. Yes. So what are the clinical conditions where calcarea sulfuricum is most indicated? Abscesses, boils, carbuncles. Think of calcarea. In fact, it's a red line symptom. Abscesses, think of calcarea sulfur by default. The remedy that comes very close is hepar sulf, but hepar sulf is extremely chilly. Hepar sulf is given abscesses refuse to mature. They don't mature, they just remain in that state. Touch and very painful. The excruciating pain is the whole. When the abscess is already ruptured, it's burst and the pus refuses to stop when the wound does not heal. So both calcarea sulfur and hepar sulfur are given for festering wounds, but hepar sulfur more for an abscess which is not burst, and calcarea sulfur which are for an abscess which is already burst but refuses to heal. So that's why calcarea sulfur is more indicated in carbuncles and abscesses which keep oozing. Glandular swellings, tumors, ulcers, cysts, fibroids. So second patient. So even for perianal abscesses or fistulas, For chilblains, it's one of the it's a fantastic remedy for palmoplantar keratosis when there are cuts and there are huge fissures in the soles or on the palms which keep oozing, and eczema, which is very crusty, which leaves huge scabs, and when they try to be dislodged, there's bleeding and there is pus discharge from those eruptions. Ulceration of the cornea, calcareous can be useful. In children, again, coryza, but remember that you cannot have any kind of discharge from any kind of orifice which is not thick or lumpy or yellow. Only then is calcareous sulf indicated. A thin, excoriating, acrid discharge is not calcareous sulf. So crasta lactea, leucorrhea again, which is thick and yellow, very useful in dropsy because calcarea sulfuricum is gypsum salt. It is plaster of Paris, absorbs a lot of water, so it can be very useful in all dropsical conditions. Very useful in chronic kidney disease, for cradle cap, for gonorrhea, for hemorrhages, injuries, effects of, and pilitis. When there is infection of the kidney, whenever there's a lower urinary tract infection, calcareous sulf is very indicated if there is a lot of pus in urine. If there are pus and if the urine is turbid, pus-like, think of calcareous sulf. So these are the clinical conditions, and just let's look at the repertorization. This is very interesting. Have a look at this. So the indications, let's look at the symptoms which have converted into rubrics. Abscesses, suppuration glands, okay. Then discharges of mucus or pus, abscess, suppurations, pus, fetid, discharges of mucus or pus, canthi, discharge secretions thick, discharges secretions yellow, eruption skin crusty, external eruption on crusty milk crust, eruptions on the skin crusty scabby, eruptions impetigo. Impetigo, for impetigo, calcareous sulf is one of the leading remedies. We are shortly going to see a case. And restlessness, nervousness. So they're not anxious, they are more restless. And jealousy is one of the themes of calcareous sulf. Now, where can you see calcareous sulf in this? You cannot see. The first remedy is sulfur, the second remedy is calcarea, which goes on to show that calcareous sulf has components of both, of sulfur as well as calcarea. But calcareous sulf is not there anywhere. You have Mercsol, you have lycopodium, you have hepar sulf, you have graphitis and restox, each indicated for some of the symptoms that are mentioned here. But calcarea and sulfur, both when they come together, they are going to show the traits of each of these elements and each of these remedies. So you can see the affinity for the skin, the mucous membrane, the bones, the glands of calcarea, and you can see the special affinity for the mucous membrane and the skin, the kind of abscesses, the tendency to festering of wounds, the unhealthy discharges, the unhealthy look of the skin, that is of sulfur. Again, there is one more very prominent modality of sulfur which calcareous sulf also has, and that is they are worse from standing. They have varicose veins. Sulfur also has very weak legs. They have burning of the soul, which calcareous sulf also has. And calcareous sulf also cannot stand for long. Aggravation at 11 a.m. is again a sulfur symptom which is present in calcarea sulfuricum. Calcarea carb is worsening in the evening. Calcarea sulf is much better, always ameliorated, always more cheerful. Towards evening, around 6 o'clock in the evening, they are at their best. So these are the difference between calcarea carbonicum and calcarea sulfuricum, each having its own affinity. Though calcarea carb is a more constitutional remedy and calcarea sulf is more clinically proven, but it's one of our gems and one of the gems of our materia medica, and we need to use it more often, more judiciously, and when it is indicated, it is one of the best remedies that can actually not just reverse, can completely turn around a pathological case. So this is the affinity, the application, and the symptoms and the repertorization of calcarea sulf. So is everybody with me? Yeah. So I think we are on the same page, looks like. So we go on next to our cases of calcarea carb and calcarea sulf. It was very important to explain the materia medica because probably all of us know these applications. All of us know calcarea carb very well, but this comparison between calcarea carb and calcarea sulf is extremely important because that's how we will know the clinical applications. So let's go on to the cases, Dr. Saili. Now, this is the case of vitiligo. And although a very cosmetic condition, but in our country, in India, it is still a social stigma. If a girl has any kind of hypopigmented patches on the face or the visible parts of the body, then it is still considered as something very negative, because it's a cosmetic disfigurement and the girl is not going to be able to find a suitable match for her. Things are changing around because people know that vitiligo is a very, very superficial complaint compared to the kind of disease that one would be having. So, as I was telling somebody the other day, that the diagnosis of tuberculosis is not as devastating as the diagnosis of vitiligo in certain families. This is a 10-year-old prepubertal girl who came to our clinic with her mother 6 months ago with a complaint of appearance of hypopigmented patch. So there was a patch about 2.5 centimeters in diameter on the left side of her chin, increasing rapidly since 2 weeks. And it just started all of a sudden. And the mother said, "Oh, we just saw a little bit of pale skin below her cheek. And then in 2 weeks, it just became so big." The skin patch was shown to a dermatologist and it was diagnosed as vitiligo 3 months ago. And so they tried all kinds of treatment. Phototherapy was also tried, Deplin cream and Decdan B, that is steroids, with no significant change. There is no itching. The girl does not experience anything. She doesn't complain of anything. There is no itching, no redness, no roughness of the skin. But the discoloration changes from brown to pink to white. So it was initially slightly brown, but then it became pink and now it's quite white and visible. So the mother is extremely anxious and she brought the child to us. Next one. So, past and family history. There is no history of any skin ailment in the past. The patient has had history of repeated cold and cough with episodes of wheezing in early childhood, and then she was put on aspirin inhalers, and she's better when she takes the salbutamol inhaler. It gives her some relief. But there is a history of repeated cold and cough, but no history of any kind of skin problem. Now, this is a life situation. The patient stays with her mother in Mumbai. Her parents separated when she was 8 years old. There were constant fights between the parents. Father was very aggressive and abusive, verbally abusive, sometimes physically as well, with her mother. So, so they separated from the father. So she subsequently moved to her grandparents' residence with her mother, and she got very attached to her grandmother because she got all the love and affection from her grandmother, which she missed earlier. And she looked after her. The mother is a very dominating person, is a control freak, and she's very fastidious. She wants things in her. She wants everything absolutely in its place, and she's very strict with her daughter. The mother had conceived the child, the patient, after 2 elective abortions, as she did not want to have a child because there was so much conflict with the husband that she didn't want to have a child. But then finally, they made up and then they decided to have a child through assisted reproductive techniques, the IUI. The patient is very sensitive to parents' quarrels, extremely sensitive to conflicts because she loved both of them very dearly. And on days when there were peace in the house, when there was no parent fights, the child used to be very happy because she would want both her parents to sit with her. Both of them should sit and play with her, watch TV with her. But the continuous conflict at home had affected the child as the parents kept using the word, "Okay, we can't get along now. We have to separate. We can't get along. We have to separate." And the word separation had kind of, it was deep seated into her mind. She remembered that word all the time. And even during history taking, she had used this word. Next one. She's now very afraid of being alone. She cannot be alone. She wants her grandmother all the time. And she's very attached to her. So unfortunately for her, grandmother is all the time at home. She was not working. Her mother was working, but her grandmother was not working. So she felt very secure, very comfortable with her grandmother being around all the time. But because she missed her father and she knew that because she's 10 years old, she knows now that her parents are probably never going to get together. And it's never going to be one house for them now. So she was a previously very sensitive, very mature, very considerate, very happy child. Now she's become introvert, she's become nervous and with very low confidence. Even her grades in school started falling, and her teacher started asking the mother during the meetings whether there was something wrong because now she's no longer wanting to communicate with anybody in class. She's afraid of staying alone and wants somebody in the room all the time. Next one. Yeah. Physical genitals. She desires eggs. She loves eggs and she has one egg every day. And she said that she can have eggs in any form. She likes them boiled, she can have them as omelets, fried, whichever way. But she must have eggs every day. She's constipated but not complaining of it. This is the symptom has given. Next one. So the rubrics we took are very peer separation of insecurity, abandoned, forsaken feeling, confidence want, abuse ailments from, desires eggs, white spots vitiligo, white discoloration skin. Uh, so based on that, very obvious that we gave calcarea carbonicum was administered in ascending potencies. First gave 30C and then after a month when she came for the follow-up, it was 200 and then it was 1M with very rapid results. In 2 to 3 months, this patient showed remarkable improvement. You can see now in the picture. Now you can see that before that, after the first prescription, calcarea carb 30C came back with improvement. The hypopigmented patch reduced in size considerably. In 4 months, it really showed a lot of difference. And not only that, not only did her skin improve, but her mental state improved. She was now more communicative. She was more confident. Her fear, nervousness, anxiety have decreased. She kept talking about loneliness earlier. Now she doesn't talk about it. So she's much happier and much more sorted now. Yes, now you can see this. Can you see the patch on the chin on the left side? About 2.5 centimeters patch. This was the first time when she came. And this is after 4 months of treatment on the right side. And for vitiligo, we would say that's a very, very rapid improvement. You can even see some hypopigmented patches on her lips and just below her lip, her lower lip. And those also have disappeared. In the second picture, you can see that. And the best part is that even her asthma is much, much better now that she does not need healers. In fact, she responds to homeopathic medicine much better than salbutamol or the inhalers. And she just gets few attacks and that to a change of weather and she settles very, very quickly. So homeopathy can, if it's a correct treatment, it can affect the patient at all levels very positively. So the side effects that a person experiences with the correct homeopathic treatment are very positive side effects. So while the chief complaint or the complaint that the patient has come with gets better, but the associated issue is also much better. So the child wasn't really affected with the vitiligo as much as she was affected with the asthma. And after the asthma got better, then you could see that there was true well-being and she looks much happier now. She got her puberty, like she's about 11 and a half years old. So like a calcarea, she started menstruating early at the age of 11. And she's suddenly looking very, very big compared to her age. So again, going in favor of calcarea. And we hope, because we've intervened with calcarea at this stage, she'll grow up to be a very normal young woman. Next one. Right. Now, explanation is calcarea carbonicum matches the symptom picture almost in its entirety. The feeling of insecurity, loss of confidence, and sense of isolation following parent separation, along with the marked desire for eggs, makes calcarea carb a perfect prescription. It is essential to catch the thread that runs through the case. For constitutional prescribing, it is very important to take the case in detail and choose the rubrics according to the theme of the case. So here the forsaken feeling, the alone feeling, loneliness, the isolation was the thread that was running through the case. The need for security, the need for warmth was the thread that ran through the case. Yes. That's the second case. We are going to see cases of calcarea. This is a 50-year-old male patient who presented in our clinic in a very anxious panic state, very, very anxious, very nervous type. He had been suffering from vertigo since 3 years and complaints, aggravated turning head, aggravated constipation, aggravated movement. He feels that his vertigo is brought on by all these problems. And the concomitant is every time he would get an attack of vertigo, he would want to vomit. He never vomited though, but he would just have severe nausea. He would want to go and vomit. And we asked him that whether vomiting gives you any relief. So he said, whenever I get the attack of vertigo, I don't wait till it gets worse. I take the Vertin tablet, which my doctor has prescribed, immediately because I don't want it to get worse. So fear of extravagance is one more symptom of calcaria, because they're so afraid of the consequences. They're so afraid of what will happen, what could happen. If something, they're afraid that the problem may compound into something very major. If they have a minor cold, they are afraid it may turn into pneumonia. So he feels better only after taking tablet Vertin. His need for Vertin has gone up 6 months. His complaint started when he was undergoing rest following his cardiac bypass surgery. So he had angina problem, and when he went for a checkup, his ECG was done. They advised him to go for a coronary angiography, which revealed blocks in his major arteries. So then he was advised to go for a cardiac bypass surgery. So he underwent the surgery. After the surgery, he was recovering. That's when all the anxiety set in, and that's when the vertigo actually became worse. Next one. Yeah. So the rubric that we took: anxiety, disease, panic attacks overpowering, vertigo general, and vertigo concomitant nausea, vertigo turning aggravated motion head off, and aggravated constipation. So we repertorize it, and the remedies most similar and indicated were phosphorus, silicea, conium, calcarea carbonicum, sulfur, nux vomica, aconite, and china. The reason why we gave calcarea carbonicum is because during convalescence, when a patient, he had time to think, and that's when his anxiety manifested. So 3 doses of calcarea carb 200 over 3 days we gave him, and that reduces vertigo by almost 50%. After 5 weeks, he had another episode when calcarea carb 1M was given as a single dose. Since then, he has not had a single dose of vertigo. This is a fantastic case, and rarely respond so quickly and with so much success for so long, because vertigo cases keep coming back. But here this patient did not come back with any problem, no fallout of the vertigo, no sequelae following the vertigo, and that was and we've been monitoring him because the other members of his family are also our patients. So we know for sure that the patient has not had any kind of a complication following our vertigo treatment. Next one. Yeah, so the explanation here is that no PQRS symptoms. All we had was vertigo, the symptoms associated with the vertigo, and the fact that he developed this during his when he was taking rest following his cardiac surgery. So it is the one keynote characteristic that can clinch the case. So here, as a complaint of vertigo started after the cardiac surgery, thus the differentiating rubric was ailments convalescence during or since, and the remedy with 4 months complete repertory is calcarea carb. That's how we could differentiate it from Konal, we could differentiate it from the other remedies that came up after that. And calcarea carb was the remedy. That is how it actually hit the bullseye. Next one. Go to the next case. Yeah, so we have a case of tinea corporis. This is a 35-year-old female. She came with complaints of lesions under her breast. So she had some itchy eruptions just below her breast and on her abdomen since 3 months. And she complained of severe itching and hyperpigmentation of the affected area. She said worse and worse. And she'd taken treatment from her dermatologist for some time. And she was diagnosed as tinea corporis. Now, again, one thing which I would like to tell you is that fungal infections are the bane of modern dermatologists. In fact, they are so rampant now that every chronic problem, every chronic ailment will be preceded by some manifestation on the skin, particularly some kind of a fungal rash. So it could be either tinea corporis, it could be tinea crudis, it could be pityriasis, it could be seborrheic dermatitis or eczema following some contact. So it could be some kind of a fungal infection. Candidiasis, another common condition that can precede some chronic infection, some chronic ailment. And here it was tinea corporis, and this patient was extremely distressed. And she's been advised a number of cases of suppressed skin eruptions are just not funny, because we get practically every case which is chronic, which is intractable, which is difficult, has been preceded by some skin problem that has been suppressed at some level or the other. And she's been advised ketoconazole, but with no relief. So she's tried everything. So she's tried conazole, she's tried ketoconazole, all kinds of shampoos, all kinds of lotions, and nothing has given her. Even steroid creams have not given her relief. Just some temporary respite from the problem. And the complaints are worse from exposure to cold air and cold water, especially at night. The patient is overweight. She's a typical, she's the leukophlegmatic constitution, as they say, a fat, fair, flabby woman, and very profuse perspiration on the whole body, drenching. She said it's so bad that I keep sweating all the time. I have to keep changing. I have to have a bath. Every time I have a bath, it just gets worse. So her sleep is also disturbed because of the itching. And so she's become very anxious now because of her problem. And she wonders whether it's ever going to get better. And she's very chilly, because she says that I want to have a bath to reduce the itching, but the moment I have a bath, I know I'm a cold. So this is again very typical of our remedy. Next one. Life situation. She stays with her husband, two children, and her mother. She went into depression. Her father died 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and she went into depression after her father's death. And since then, she's become very anxious, because it was very sudden. He died of a heart attack. And since his death, she's anxious about her own health and about her family members' health. She keeps worrying now that my mother is no more, whether my mother will have a similar issue, whether I will have an issue, because it's hereditary heart disease runs in the family. Will I also get a heart problem? So she's anxious, become very anxious about pills. Even little things make her anxious. Next one. And then she can't stay alone because of her anxiety. She wants somebody all the time. Even when her husband is not come from office, she keeps worrying, why hasn't he come yet? So she keeps calling him up to find out where he is and why hasn't he reached home yet. She's fear of darkness. She's very forgetful and doesn't remember names of her relatives, or at times the name of the road, or can't recollect what she read earlier. And it's because of so much stress, ailments from stress. Calcularia is a remedy. So, inability to manage the stress, inability to take the stress is calcularia. So here you can see anxiety trifles about, forgetfulness, anxiety health about, mind, fear, alone being, tinea, ringworm general, skin itching, cold aggravates, night aggravates, and perspiration profuse. There's one more thing I would like to bring to your notice, is that very often we read too much into the case. We want to make our own perceptions. We want to draw our own conclusions. We often associate the patient's presentation with the events that have occurred in his or her life. And the more the events, the more exciting the case, the more we think that we've got a complete case. But remember, a complete case is not where there are more events in the person's life. It is about how the patient has responded to what has happened to her or him. What each experience, what each assault that he or she has faced, whether at physical or mental level, what kind of effect and what kind of diseases it has resulted in. So the cause-effect ratio, the thread that runs through the remedy, the entire sequence of events and how it is manifested into what the patient is now suffering from is extremely important. So that's how you should take. So just take what the patient gives you. And if you take what the patient gives you, then you will be doing a very unprejudiced job. You will not be thinking, oh, is this too common? Is this too rare? Is this PQRS? Is this general? Just take what the patient gives you, because what bothers the patient is going to come out through signs and symptoms. And if you are observant, if you know what to take, if you know what to take and what to apply, you will never go wrong in your repertorization. So this is what we have taken, exactly the symptoms she came out with, which were converted into rubrics and applied. So you can see that Calcularia is covering almost every single symptom here. Close on the heels is sepia, because she's a middle-aged woman suffering from tinea, fungal infection, itching. Sepia is a very natural remedy that will come to your mind. But if you get the anxiety that the patient is going through and the anxiety that is manifested into a problem, you'll know that it is a Calcularia case through and through. Next one. Yeah. So here we gave Calcularia carb 30 BD for 4 days. followed by SL for 1 month. We just kept the patient. The reason why we have given a BD dose for 4 days is because she has been taking so much of medication, whether it is oral or applied, local applications, is that giving one remedy, we are not even sure whether she'll take it. So if we give 30 C, which is a very moderate potency, a very mild potency, and give it BD for 4 days, you can be sure that the remedy has gone in, and actually some, that the absorption also will happen. But if you give one remedy and the patient has not taken, if the taste buds are uh, already overpowered with all the remedies that she's taken so far, the allopathic remedy, perhaps our remedy may not make a dent. So this is the reason why we give it for 4 days. And then this is followed by placebo, so we can monitor the patient through the month. Yeah. So the patient came for the first follow-up. She was much better in terms of itching, better by 50%. Hyperpigmented lesions are also better by 50%. Mentally, she's much better. See, the correct remedy has to have an effect on the quality of life of the patient. You cannot have the chief complaint getting better and the patient getting worse. Both have to go simultaneously, and the other way also should not happen. It is unlikely that the patient will say, "Oh, I'm much better," and her chief complaint is very bad, or it's much worse. So that's not how you should look at it. Both have to go concurrently. So her anxiety has reduced. The patient is kept on SL now. Now the itching has gone down. The patches have also gone down. The skin is looking much normal. She traveled now. Earlier, she was afraid of traveling on her own because she was so afraid of being alone. She wanted someone with her all the time. She traveled from Mumbai to Pune for a training all by herself, and she stayed there alone. So she went to Pune for a training session. She stayed there alone for all through. She was kept on SL, and she just made one phone call to us asking whether it's okay to just continue the medicine the way it is. It was more as a cover up for her anxiety as that, but she still managed to stay alone by herself without any problems. And on the 5th of September, her skin complaints are much better. Mentally also patient is much better, and then patient is still kept on SL. Next one. You can see this is actually the second follow-up. The first time when she came, she refused to get photographed. So this is all that we have, but you can see the difference. This is the second follow-up, and this is after 2 months when she was better. All the itching, the hyperpigmentation, the scaling, you can see the patches are much better. You can see the patches of ringworm. You can see the peripheral discoloration, and then the central clearing, very clear in the first photograph. And the second one, you can see the skin, which is almost normal now, except a little bit of discoloration around the umbilicus. The skin is much better. And this is very clear. The one which is just below her left breast, you can see the patch of tinea. And this is the second photograph, and it's almost cleared up. So this has been Calcarea carbonicum. And almost 2 years after the treatment, 2017, 2 years after the treatment, she continues to be better. She has not come back with the itching. And as I said, that the entire family, this family too, has been coming to us for several of their issues. And she has not reported any kind of aggravation after that. And she stopped using all the steroid creams, and except that she perspires, and so she says that, can I use some talcum for that? That's all. Otherwise, she does not need anything else. Okay, so next one. Now this is the next case, very interesting. Now you can see how Calcarea carb has different manifestations. At every level, Calcarea can act, whether it is vertigo, whether it is a fungal infection, whether it is a skin problem like this, whether it's a molluscum. It has a lot of applications everywhere. And as I said, it is one of our leading polycrest remedies, very well proven. The advantage of Calcarea, the more well proven the remedy is, the more constitutional application it can have. A remedy which is not so well proven, it can be indicated and can be given because of its clinical provings. But for a proper homeopathic prescription, the subjective part of the case is very important. Calcarea has that because the way it has, it's one of our finest mineral remedies, along with natrimur and with phosphorus, and of course with causticum, which are also very well proven remedies. But Calcarea remains the king of antisorics, very valuable in our materia medica. Now this is a case of molluscum contagiosum. It's a 5-year-old male child, resident of Mumbai. reported to the clinic on 2 years ago with complaints of small, pearly eruptions on the face since 15 days. And the child has been going to the pediatrician. The eruption just kept on increasing. They tried to give first some antibiotics, some applications. It didn't help. And the pediatrician said that if this the way they are increasing, I have to do some cauterization. And the child's mother got so frightened, she said that we don't want to go for such painful treatments for my child, and I don't want to do this. I heard that homeopathy has some. So can you give us something for my child? The child didn't seem to be very affected. Remember that molluscum is a very benign condition and it has more cosmetic value than anything else. But the child did scratch as the eruptions started increasing. The child started scratching on those eruptions. So the location is the face, the nose, forehead, the perioral region. That's where there is maximum eruption. And sensation, the child bleeds only and scratches only if there is any kind of itching, but not much of itching. Only if he scratches it inadvertently, then there is some bleeding from the site. And no particular modality, no worsening or getting better by anything because the child is not suffering from the problem at all. And how did he get? He got it through contact transmission in preschool. He goes to a preschool, and other children might be having it and got it from there. Nothing remarkable about the past history except that he keeps getting repeated attacks of upper respiratory infections. So he keeps getting cold, cough, sore throat, a little bit of fever off and on. That's it, but nothing major. He's otherwise a healthy child. The family history: mother has postpartum depression after the birth of this child. He has an older sister as well, and he's been treated for the same. Yet occasional episodes of weeping. So the mother still has episodes of weeping and depression. The father is having no major issues, and he has an older sister. She's 8 years old, and she is also healthy. So, but there is a history of depression in the family. The maternal grandfather also had depression, and he passed away 10 years ago with other issues. Next one. Now, the patient's appetite, thirst, stool, urine, everything is normal. Perspiration was diffused. That is very, very marked. And it's all over the body, especially over the head. Now, this is characteristic of calcarea, but a lot of children do have perspiration on the head. And will all require calcarea? No, unless there are other indications. Merely having profuse perspiration on the head is not the indication for calcarea, although 70% of children are going to require calcarea sometime or the other. So patient wanted to be covered all the time. Now this is very Marxist. He wanted to be covered all the time. He has a quilt. There's a baby quilt, which his grandmother had stitched when he was a baby. And since then he's been having it and he wants the quilt every time, whether he goes to bed, wakes up in the morning, he goes to the bathroom with it, he goes to school with it. Even in the school, he in his bag. Although he's not allowed to take it out, but he wants it everywhere. He comes to our clinic with the quilt in his hand and so obsessed with it as if it's something very precious. So if you try to take the quilt from him, he gets very insecure, very anxious, and you can see the anxiety on his face. And he starts his eyes get filled with tears and he wants to cry. He will wrap the quilt around him all the time. That is very characteristic. The patient had a strong craving for sweets and wanted sweets after every meal. So he was used to chocolate and he wanted toffee. If nothing, he would ask his mother for a piece of jaggery. Give me something so that I can have it. So he wants sweets all the time. At milestones, until the age of 3.5 years, patient was only talking in monosyllables. Mother was anxious and therefore started consulting a speech therapist. Note that mother goes through phases of depression. Please go back. Please go back. Yeah, mother is depressed most of the time. Grandfather has a history of depression. This could have an effect on the child, and he has an older sister who is very talented, but she is also very sensitive. She was come to other for other issues, but very sensitive child. So in a fact, a very sensitive, very insecure, very depressed, low-spirited people. This child also became a little drawn, and the normal milestones that a child, his talking, his walking was absolutely okay, his teething was okay, but his speech got delayed until the age of 3.5 years. Until 3, he would hardly say anything. Until the age of 3.5 years, some monosyllables, but mother got very anxious and she thought that he has a major speech issue. So she started consulting a speech therapist on the advice of a pediatrician. And that also didn't make much of a difference because he wasn't talking much. And the speech therapist said that the child is very stubborn and will only talk when he wants to talk. And there's no problem with his, there's no anatomical issue, there's no organic issue, there is no problem which needs any kind of medical correction. It's just that the child is very headstrong and doesn't want to speak. This is what the speech therapist said. So the next one. Life situation here. The child is a preschooler and stays in the nuclear family with his parents and sister. Father works in a software company and mother is a homemaker, housewife. The child is very obstinate, and as I said, he insists on carrying the quilt everywhere, and he would not part with it even for a few minutes and brought it with him to our consulting room as well. Very affectionate. He wants to be hugged, embraced. He wants to sit on his mother's lap. He wants to be her, so he's with her all the time. He's quite friendly otherwise, but strangers and becomes comfortable once he's familiar with them. But he has fear of the dark and wants the light on all the time, even when he's sleeping. So if he wakes up in the middle of the night, he has these night terrors, and if around, he shrieks, he cries, and he's only when he knows that his mother is next to him. So he has that fear of dark and wants the light on all the time. Next one. Yeah, so we've repertorized this case here. You can see we've taken insecurity as one of the rubrics. Desire for, he wants to be hugged, wants his mother. Timidity, initially, others will not make friends easily. Fear of dark, very obstinate, headstrong, carries his quilt all the time. Development slow, talking slow. Perspiration profuse. Food and drink, sweets, desires, and molluscum contagiosum, which is the last symptom we have taken. That's one of the most ordinary and common of all the rubrics. So this is how we have taken, but here everywhere calcarea is indicated. No surprises, lycopodium follows very close, silicea follows, phosphorus, natrum. You can see how logical the order of the other remedies. Look at the other remedies which are coming up. And many of them would be, if calcarea was not coming up so well, you would still think of lycopodium because it's one of our excellent remedies for skin issues like molluscum. Silicea is one of the main remedies for molluscum. But the insecurity and the timidity, more than timidity, the anxiety of calcarea is very marked because you're that desire to be hugged all the time, wanting to be near his mother, fear of dark, and his headstrong, stubborn nature, carrying the quilt everywhere, almost bordering on anxiety neurosis, is very, very typical of calcarea. So look at how we've given it. Next one. Yeah, so calcarea cup 200 BD for 4 days. 200, a slightly higher potency was chosen because it was a very characteristic remedy. You could, we were almost sure of hitting the bullseye. We were so sure of the remedy. And this you can use as a thumb rule, is that the higher you go up, in terms of subjective symptoms, the more find the cases, the more complete the cases, the stronger the mental symptoms, you can take potency higher, and you can make the repetition absolutely infrequent. Just a single dose might suffice. But when you're using it for clinical purposes, when the manifestation, when the presentation is more clinical, and the remedy is based more on the pathology that presents with, and there are not too many characteristic symptoms, but one or two characteristic symptoms which you can use as differentiating rubrics, like the keynote method that we often apply. In that case, you can give a slightly lower potency, like 30, 12 perhaps, but not, we don't go below that, at the most 12 or 30. And you get a little more of repetition, perhaps 2 or 3 times you might need to repeat. The reason is that when not be a constitutional remedy, but it is the most indicated remedy at that time. And when you give that, there will be amelioration. The case will open up for further constitutional prescribing. So it is possible, like how, as I said, Dr. Bichulkas often says, is that you don't find pure constitutions very much now. Most of the constitutions are layered, and you need to remove one veneer after another to go to the core constitution. And so core constitutions are only in children, that too in children who are brought up normally, in children who have a very normal childhood. Most of the urban metropolis kind of environment do not give our children normal childhoods nowadays. Children are born with layers because mothers have such complex personalities, have such complex issues. That children are also born with a lot of pathologies at the outset. And we might need to give a series of remedies till we arrive at the core constitution. And that can happen if you observe, if you're an unprejudiced observer, if you're very objective in your analysis and you don't allow your constitution to get interfere with the patient's constitution. Only then that is possible. Next one. Yeah, so this is the follow-ups you can see on after a month, no new eruptions. Old ones have dried up. It's in the action of the previous remedy was continuing, so no new symptoms are given. So we kept the patient on SL. Another month later, all the old eruptions fell off. Only few eruptions on the forehead were remaining, no new complaints, and patient is also generally better. The remedy action is still continuing, patient is showing improvement, so again, no intervention required. But on 5th of February, no new eruptions, but patient continues to carry the quilt. He's still obsessed with the quilt. So everything remains calcarea carb, except that we feel that probably we need to step up the potency here because the early one has stopped acting. So we give calcarea carb 1 mg, one single dose. And as I said, the more similar the remedy, the greater the susceptibility to that remedy and the higher the potency required. So we give 1 mg, so no new eruptions, and now patient has stopped using the quilt. He comes to our, this is an absolute fact, he comes to our consulting without the quilt. You can see the pictures, you can see the eruptions, molluscum. This is after the treatment, all the eruptions have fallen off. Painlessly, gently, effectively. And the correct remedy is going to take, and I have read and I make this my maxim now, is that the correct homeopathic remedy not only removes the symptoms, but it removes the disease from the mind and the consciousness of the patient. So you can see that it has altered the constitution for the better. The child is more, with the circumstances remaining the same. So the mother continues to have her, episodes of depression. The family situation hasn't really changed. His relation with his older sister remains the same. The child is much better now. His speech has improved. Now you could say that it's a natural fallout of growth and development, but we can see that the cause effect is very clear. The moment the remedy was given, it started acting in the next 2-3 months. The molluscum got better. The patient got confident. He stopped using the quilt, and his speech is also much better. And now he talks so much that his mother is asking us to give us some remedy so that he stops chattering so much. So this is calcarea carb for you. So after cases of calcarea carbonicum, we have taken 4 cases, I think. So now we go on to the next case, which is of calcarea sulf. Now, the case of vaginal eruptions, boils. This is a 36-year-old female patient who presented with complaint of pustular eruptions near the vagina and labia since 4 or 5 days. And the eruptions are very painful, better by uncovering. This is an acute. And this patient had come to us for some other problem almost 3 years before she came now. And she had burning pain in the vagina, and one of the boils was oozing. There was so much of discharge, it was yellow and thick. She had a history of leukorrhea, which was also thick, yellowish discharge. And the patient was very anxious and restless because she thought she had heard from somewhere that a continuous discharge or boils around the vagina could mean cancer. So she was afraid that she would develop a malignancy. So she was so afraid. The first question she asked, doctor, is this going to be serious? Is this going to be, will this turn into cancer? Will I have to take some treatment for that? So she was very anxious while she was narrating her complaints. And she had a history of some boils 1 year back. She had not taken any treatment for that, but she had recurrent boils in the body. And maybe she just applied some local application, but nothing else. Next one. Yeah, so eruptions, boils, furuncles, painful. Boils are very painful. Pain, burning, smarting vagina. This is all that the information that we had, nothing else. We kept asking, no further history was given. So pain, burning, smarting vagina, eruptions, discharging moist yellow, eruptions pustular, uncovering desires. She said that she feels like removing a cloth because it's so irritating, so much itching, and she feels better when there is some cool air. So skin furuncles, boils, recurrent tendency, leukorrhea yellow and thick, and restlessness, nervousness. Next one. Yeah, so prescription and follow-up. So based on the totality, Calcarea sulf, 30C, again a moderate potency, twice a day for 3 days. That's it. Next day, because this was acute problem, so patient would have wanted relief immediately. So next day, the patient reported that pain had significantly reduced and oozing had also come down. After 3 more days, patient reported saying that boils had reduced remarkably. Now there is no pain, no burning, and no itching. And the leukorrhea also has decreased considerably. Patient is now kept on SL. After 1 week, no boils, no pain, leukorrhea gone, anxiety also reduced significantly. So even in acute cases, now this patient had not been on antibiotics, she had not used any other treatment. She thought of taking homeopathy first, and that's how she approached us. So here, Calcarea, you can see how the remedy has acted. So based on the totality, Calcarea sulf 30 ml was given, and that's how she got her relief. Next one. So, along with the chief complaint of boil yellow discharges, better by uncovering and anxiety with restlessness indicated Calcarea sulf in totality. So, even if they are clinical manifestations, there is one rubric, one symptom that is very characteristic, and it goes with the patient's statement. That is the restlessness that she had, the anxiety that she had, which was very typical of a Calcarea element. So, the boils, the typical discharge that she had was yellow and thick, was foul smelling as well. So Calcarea sulf proves that it has marked action on the skin and tendency to boils and suppurations. So all boils, suppurations, all kinds of abscesses, furuncles, carbuncles, which are oozing, thick and yellow lumpy discharge, and which continue to ooze, and the patient is very distressed because of the constant oozing and because it does not heal. Always think of Calcarea sulf. Next one. Now, this is a very, very good case that we had. And you know how we have some favorite cases and some cases which make you feel proud of being a homeopath. And this is one of those. This is the case of fulminant pyoderma impetigo. This is one of our regular patients. She's been coming to us for some years now. She was treated previously for psoriasis. We had presented this psoriasis in an earlier webinar of this whole case, and it was an extremely complicated case, and we're happy that we have brought the quality of life back into this patient because she was so distressed, so upset, and her life was almost ruined because of her psoriasis. And she's so much better now, and she's been asymptomatic for more than 1.5 years. So she didn't come to us for more than 1.5 years, and we've been monitoring her because through telephone calls, and she said she's much better. But she presented one day, she just called up and she said, I have these large eruptions on my face and neck. She said, I had fever for a few days and I had some mild throat symptoms. I just took Crocin, I just took paracetamol, a couple of doses of paracetamol. That's it. I didn't take anything, thinking that it's a minor viral thing and it will pass off. So my fever went away. But after that, these eruptions started on my face. They're very thick, crusty, and they are now started discharging a yellow discharge. And she said they are now so bad that they kept increasing and getting worse, and I don't know what to do. They're all around her mouth, her chin, cheeks, and below the eyes. And she says, I'm not in a position to come. Can you do something? I can send somebody to pick up my medicine, but I cannot come in this situation. I will. So we asked her to send picture with this. So she was very reluctant, but then she did. So she said that I'm due to give, and how can I go with this condition? How can I go to my exam hall with this face? Can you do something? You have to do something right now. Or what shall I do? Shall I see the dermatologist? So it was a big challenge to us. It wasn't that we don't refer patients to dermatologists in acute conditions, but here this was a very challenging case that we had taken up earlier, and we had brought her out of a very difficult situation, very difficult condition of psoriasis, and we didn't want her to get aggravated again in that area. So we decided to take up this challenge. So we said, please send us your picture. And the eruptions, she said, were initially inflamed, they were red, but then they became very itchy and turned into very large fluid-filled blisters. And she said, what can I do now? So she sent us her pictures. We'll show you that in the end, but we'll show you how it went. So based on the history of fever, the nature of eruptions and the discharge, and the fulminant character of the skin. So history of fever, nature of eruptions, and the discharge, and the fulminant character of the skin. It was getting very bad very rapidly. So we gave her 1 dose of Pyrogen 200, followed by Calcarea Sulf 30C, BD for 3 days, and asked to send a picture after 3 days or report earlier SOS. The reason why we gave Pyrogen was because Pyrogen goes, in fact, it's a very close remedy to Calcarea Sulf, because it covers the pathology, it covers the fulminant nature of the problem, and the septic condition. So Pyrogen can be given in septicemia and septic conditions, either as an intercurrent or to stop the process of cure, where you require rapid results. Here there was just no time because she was getting aggravated very, very rapidly. So we gave her 1 dose of Pyrogen 200, followed by Calcarea Sulf 30C because of the history of fever and the nature of eruptions and the discharge and the fulminant character of the skin. The discharge was thick, yellow, crusty, oozing eruptions, as the scabby nature of the eruptions. So we gave her Calcarea Sulf. And we told her, please send her a picture after 3 days. Next one. So the explanation that Calcarea sulfuricum is one of the gems of our materia medica. It never fails in cases of impetigo, boils, acne vulgaris. Look at the manifestations. Impetigo, boils, acne vulgaris, abscesses, diabetic carbuncles, any suppurative crusty eruptions which secrete yellow thick discharge. In this case also it worked very well. So Pyrogen was given to quickly overcome the pathological obstacle as the progress was rapid and fulminant. And if the indicated remedy is right, and when it is given at the right time, it will give very quick and effective relief and also save the patient so much distress and cost also. You can look at the pictures and decide for yourself. So this is exactly after 4 days. This is the picture that he sent to us when the eruption become fulminant and they started oozing. Can you see the yellow discharge? If you can actually zero down on the screen and see it, you can maximize and see it. You can see the yellow crusty eruptions and the oozing. The eruptions just below her eye. And we can't show you the entire face. There are some eruptions in the forehead as well, all around her. But they were so bad that she was extremely distressed, and she said, how will I give my exams? And this is after 3 days. And she sent the picture. She went happily, gave her exams, and so grateful. This is the kind of happiness that we as healers, as doctors, as homeopaths are always seeking. They cannot be quantified with anything else in the world. And when you get these kind of results, we want to show these results to people who scoff at homeopathy, who are skeptics, who believe that it cannot work or it's a placebo effect. You can see that this cannot have been achieved by any kind of a placebo under any circumstances. It is only the right homeopathic remedy which was given at the right time which has done this. And while they appear miraculous, these results, as homeopaths, we must be grounded. We must know that they are not miracles. They are a logical sequence, a logical effect of the correctly given homeopathic remedy. That's it. They appear as miracles, but they are absolutely natural cures. They are natural effects. They are natural results of the correctly given homeopathic remedy. And that is how we should be treating. High rate is going to improve if we give the correct remedy by doing the process very correctly. So whether it is taking the case, whether it is noting the symptoms, converting the symptoms into rubrics, repertorizing the case, and then choosing the right remedy in the right potency. It's the whole process which is very scientific and very rational and not at all complex. It is very simple if you follow the fundamental rules of homeopathy. So thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of the session. Is that right? Yes, that's right. So this was Calcarea carbonicum, Calcarea sulfuricum with their constitutional symptoms, with their applications, with their clinical provings, with their clinical indications, and with the cases. So now I'm open to questions. I'm open to any kinds of doubts which I can solve for you. Hopefully we can have some nice discussions.
1 minute. Let me see.
Am I audible? I hope to. Yes.
Yeah, you are audible.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. If there's anybody who wants to ask the doctor anything, you can request for permission, and we can give you. Yes, Dr. Sunita.
Yes. Can we also see the person who's asking?
Yes, of course. She has to give access to her mic and her video, and we can see her and she can speak directly.
Okay. Or she can type her question if she's comfortable with that.
Yes, you can also type the question if you want.
Oh. She did not get access. Okay.
She probably is.
Are there any questions?
What about you, Goodney? How did you like this webinar?
Are you able to hear? Karthik, you can ask any questions if you like.
No, it was so much of information, Sujata. There's so much of information that you've given. It's going to take a while for us to absorb this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you in the Calcarea state?
No, there are so many layers.
Yes.
Yeah, 1 minute. Let me check. Let me put out a poll. Yeah, somebody's asked in molluscum contagiosum case,
Yes.
and it be started with Calcarea 1M, 1 dose. This was asked by Dr. Viral Shah.
Right. No, we did not start with 1M. We did not start with 1M. 1M was given when the molluscum started going down, but the patient's mental state did not change. The patient continued to carry the quilt. If you remember the case, the child had an obsession with his quilt, and he kept carrying it everywhere he went. And this symptom had not gone. So this is something that was a part of his. It was almost a pathological symptom because it was an obsessive state that he was in. And when we gave Calcarea 1M, after that dose, the child improved remarkably. His molluscum also, of course, had started disappearing with the first dose of Calcarea, but his obsession with his quilt came down after Calcarea Carb 1M. That's how it was.
Yeah. So he wants to know whether it could have been started with 1M rather than 30 and then go on to 1M.
See, in children, what happens is that especially whenever there is an infection, now molluscum contagiosum is a viral infection. So we'd rather not go into any potency that might induce any kind of aggravation. So we start with a potency which is very moderate. So we can always, from 2, we can always go on to 1M. But if there's an initial aggravation, you will not know whether it was the potency or the medicines. So we always prefer to start with, especially in an acute state, because the child had come with the molluscum which was increasing rapidly. You could see, did you see the picture, how rapid it was?
Yes.
Yes. So we didn't want any kind of aggravation. That's why we gave 200, and then patient did improve immediately with Calcarea Carb 200. And then after 1M, and 200 was also slightly higher potency. So we used it because we were almost sure of the constitutional picture of Calcarea. But 1M was introduced because it had reached a kind of an SQ, a status which he wanted to remove, and that one M potency succeeded in doing that.
Okay. He also wants to ask whether why did you choose 1 minute? Yeah, let me read it out. The child was carrying the quilt. Why did you not take clinging instead of timidity?
Instead of
Oh,
timidity,
yes.
you can take clinging as well, but here the what we took was it was more of, if you realize that the way the child's temperament manifested was, he was actually a very timid child, and when he came for it took us several meetings with him for him to open up a bit, and he once he opened up, he became very comfortable, and which is a very typical symptom of calcaria. So the initial inhibition which is there with strangers is very marked in calcaria. And even at home, he was comfortable with people around him. He wanted his mother, he wanted his sister, he wanted the familiar people around him. He was afraid of the dark, and so all these symptoms were converted into rubrics, and those were taken as a chemo symptom. Even if you take clinging as a symptom, it's a very good question. Even if you take clinging, calcaria will still be indicated. See, remember, it is the broad picture that the remedy must fit into. Uh, just splitting the symptoms into their, what do you say, like splitting hairs may not sometimes really help. What is important is that the remedy must cover the broad picture of the constitution, and that's what calcaria was doing. So whether it was clinging or whether it was timidity or anxiety or insecurity, calcaria was covering everything. And as I said, that Cilicia was also coming very close. In fact, it was the next remedy. Lycopodium was coming. But if you look at the overall picture, the overall temperament of the child, along with the physical manifestation, calcaria was fitting to the team.
That was asked by Dr. Sunita Agarwal.
Yes.
So, does anybody else have anything to ask Dr. Sujata? Yeah, I guess.
So either they like the presentation so much that there's no need to ask anything. They didn't like it at all, so they would rather not ask.
No, we'll anyway, we'll be sending you the recorded version of this. So if anybody wants to ask you anything, they probably will message you directly and get to figure out what they want to ask.
Yes.
It's a very exhaustive one, Sujata. I mean, it's 2 hours is a huge seminar for just two remedies, and I think you went into all the facets of calcaria sulf and calcaria phos. So thanks a lot for that. We enjoyed it, and let me put out a small poll to see if anybody has. Smita Mahajan, we love the presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Sujata. Goodney, totally agree. Great info on calcaria sulf. Thank you. So there you go. You got some nice feedback. Right. So thanks, Goodney. Thank you all for coming. And we hope to see you at more seminars, and you, Dr. Sujata, you as well. We'd love to have you share more seminars with us.
Sure.
And share your knowledge.
My pleasure.
Yeah?
Thank you very much for being such an attentive audience and for the smooth proceedings, Karthik. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, no glitches. And also thanks to Siali and Vaidehi as well.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. And
you.
everybody who wants to have or see or discuss more cases, they're always welcome on Dr. Sujata Naik's Homeo Insights on Facebook.
Right. Okay then.